Of all the shows I watched in my early childhood, none stuck in my head more than VeggieTales, and I'm confident that there are many people who feel the same way. VeggieTales is the definition of a show that has no right to be as good as it is, especially when considering the hurdles it had to overcome just as a concept. A 3D animated show about talking vegetables that focused on Christianity isn't exactly a recipe for mainstream success, or even a good recipe for a children's show. Now, I don't know how familiar you all are with the Bible, but let's just say it has some serious non-advertiser friendly shit within it. And not a single talking vegetable in sight. Talking animals, yes, but not a single talking cucumber or tomato, alright? That shit's demonic. But VeggieTales approached this concept in the simplest, most lighthearted way possible. The character designs were simple and expressive, the characters themselves were distinct and well-defined, and the show rarely bombarded the audience with religious messaging, instead going for a softer and sillier approach. As someone who was raised in a Christian household and has since left those beliefs behind, I still find myself laughing and enjoying episodes of VeggieTales today. I was surprised at how much I was laughing while rewatching episodes for this video. Even episodes I didn't see as a kid, I was still laughing right along with. And that really surprised me, and I think it speaks to this show's quality and appeal. Despite VeggieTales being focused around Christianity, the show found a way to be approachable and watchable for a secular audience. At its peak of popularity, the team behind VeggieTales was setting the stage for a jump beyond the world of home video entertainment, and began planning to produce VeggieTales feature films. And while we did receive 2 VeggieTales movies, the first being Jonah and the second being The Pirates Who Don't Do Anything, there was one VeggieTales film that never got released, despite having a completed script and even some concept art completed. That film was Bob and Larry, and based on the research I've done, I can say with a great deal of confidence that it would have been one of the strangest things to ever come out of Big Idea. The Bob and Larry movie was set to be Big Idea's next big idea. It's stupid, but it's not wrong. Philip Vischer, the creator of VeggieTales, gives us some insight on the ill-fated project on a multi-part blog post titled, "What Happened to Big Idea?" Phil Vischer said, "We had a second feature film in development, the Bob and Larry movie. If Jonah was a Sunday school lesson on steroids, the Bob and Larry movie would be our Toy Story. It was funnier, more exciting, and more emotionally involving than Jonah. It was really good. We already had a team of about 10 people working on it, designing sets, props, and characters." So the team working on the film was pretty small, but they were actively working on it at one point. And Phil Vischer has said that he has a completed script in his possession, though we can't release it because it technically doesn't belong to him. Like with most lost media, the information we have to go off of is pretty sparse. Turns out that's actually part of the reason why they call it lost media. It's true, I looked it up. But what we do have to go off of is still really, really interesting, with one piece of this movie standing out as downright bizarre. What piece am I talking about? They were gonna put humans in that shit. In VeggieTales. You're not supposed to do that. Yes, this movie was going to feature actual human beings interacting with talking vegetables, which, in my opinion, completely messes up what makes VeggieTales work. When you have vegetables teaching Bible lessons to other vegetables, it comes off as kind of silly and charming. But when you have vegetables teaching Bible lessons to humans, it raises so many questions that the inherent charm and silliness is completely lost. It just becomes downright strange. One question that comes to mind as an adult now would be, if humans exist in a world with talking vegetables, yet us in our real world don't exist in a world of talking vegetables, but in the realm of the movie these talking vegetables do in fact exist, then they had to have come from either God or Satan. So they're either prophets sent by God to spread God's word, which would be seen as a form of blasphemy by Christian viewers, or they're false prophets sent by Satan to turn people towards a skewed version of religion where vegetables can talk. It raises a lot of questions, this premise. Also, another question, why is it called VeggieTales if there's people in it? It should be vegetables in it. Now, of course, I'm goofing around a bit, and the film was supposed to open with, or at least have a section that had an explanation as to why vegetables come to life to help humanity as set up in the information we have right now. It was all supposed to be explained in the film. But for me, I think I'd prefer if the story just focused on talking food, because that's where a lot of the charm comes from for me. But setting that aside, there are more story details to go over that were collected on the Lost Media Wiki. If you ever want to know anything about a canceled TV show or some missing thing that you think you remembered from your childhood, check out the Lost Media Wiki. It is incredibly cool, super awesome, love it. Couldn't have made this video without it. Carrying on from that, the film was supposed to be a sort of origin story for VeggieTales, and it would show how Bob and Larry met. Now, I remember being a kid, and the one question I had while watching VeggieTales was, how on earth did these vegetables start this business? It seems like a plot hole to me. Bob would be working as a TV news reporter hosting a segment called Farm Report, and Larry would be working in a chicken hat factory because his head was chicken-sized? Okay. Bob and Larry would meet when Bob is tasked with doing a news report on the chicken hat factory. Okay. And of course, Bob and Larry would live in a nightstand that belonged to a human boy named Dexter. What? Okay, clearly we are missing some big pieces of information when it comes to the story of this movie, because I don't know how any of this was supposed to work. When Phil Vischer said that this movie was going to be their Toy Story, I thought he meant it was going to be their first big hit, like Toy Story was for Pixar. I didn't think he meant it would be a Toy Story-like story where when the humans are away, the vegetables play. That's the vibe I'm getting from this story. Like there's a secret world of vegetables that live alongside humans, but in secret. What? And to be clear, this is just the vibe I'm getting based off the information that we have. I seriously doubt the story of this movie was going to be anything like this, because there is one obvious issue with having talking vegetables living alongside humans.
If you like to talk to tomatoes, if a squash can make you smile.
And also, I'm pretty sure this is just me being immature as usual, but I think we all know the only reason someone would have a cucumber and a tomato in their nightstand. One's for plugging a hole, the other one, you make a hole in it, and you let your imagination do the rest. As for other notable information about the canceled film, apparently the model for the villain in the movie was reused in the VeggieTales story Dr. Jiggle and Mr. Sly, but I'll be honest, I have no idea which model they're talking about. Is it this guy? This guy? I have no idea. Also, I didn't know Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was a Bible story. That's a new one for me. Now, I know VeggieTales, you know, they did other stories, other parodies, like Lord of the Beans or Minnesota Cuke. So Jekyll and Hyde's probably fine. But the episode preceding this one, that I guess was on the same VHS or DVD, was A Snoodle's Tale. What the... Maybe it's not a surprise that this movie's plot is absolutely batshit insane, from what we can tell. Maybe there were some signs. Anyways, back to the Bob and Larry movie. There were some interesting pieces of concept art shared that you've been seeing throughout this video, sprinkled in here and there. And that's really about it. And that leads us to the one question that surrounds nearly all Lost media. What happened to it? Well, it's all a bit complicated, because you can't talk about the cancellation of this movie without talking about Big Idea as a whole, and a lot of the mistakes and choices they made as a company. So I'll give the quick version here to keep this video brief, but if you want an in-depth look at the history of Big Idea and the rise and fall of VeggieTales, I highly recommend checking out Saberspark's documentary he did on the subject. As you can see by the length of his video, there's a lot that led up to the cancellation of this film, and there is a lot of drama surrounding Big Idea and VeggieTales, so I highly recommend you check out that video. But here's the quick version. Basically, Phil Vischer, creator of VeggieTales, we've talked about him a good bit, took out a loan to get the money to make the first VeggieTales movie, that one being Jonah. VeggieTales was very much a success at the time of this decision, but Big Idea was losing money due to a multitude of reasons that all branched from being overly ambitious. Phil Vischer has said that his goal with Big Idea was to build the next Disney, which is a problematic goal for a Christian company, considering Disney is fucking evil. Stack on top of that a lawsuit from Hit Entertainment for breach of contract regarding merchandising rights that Big Idea would lose, and Jonah not making anywhere near enough money at the box office to recoup its budget and marketing, and you've got a recipe for Chapter 11, bankruptcy. After this turn of events, Bob and Larry was cancelled, and all the work done on it was either repurposed or just scrapped. After Big Idea was bought out by Classic Media in 2004, the team did consider reviving Bob and Larry for another attempt at a theatrical release, but they wound up making The Pirates That Don't Do Anything instead. There have been talks of a VeggieTales revival film over the last few years, though Phil Vischer has said that the Bob and Larry script would not be used for this project. And at this point in time, there is no evidence to suggest that this film will ever see the light of day. All curious fans have to go off of are the small snippets of knowledge given to us from people who worked on the project. And that, everyone, is the story of Bob and Larry, the cancelled VeggieTales film that will never be seen by anyone.